Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. Apologies for the video being a little bit late today. I did have something come up, but nonetheless, I wanted to get the video out regardless because I do think today's action is important to talk about, and I definitely want to talk about it. So all that being said and done, if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button, but let's just get this started. Tesla ending the day down actually 2.67% on a market that was only down 0.5 for the QQQ and flat for the SPY, right? So Tesla pretty much showing weakness all day today. And it's been showing weakness for the past week, right? Pretty much for the past week of trading, it's been just red. Not every day has been literally red, because again, the red candlestick doesn't necessarily mean a red day. It just means that you closed lower than you opened, right? We had some days where I think it was green, but the candle was red because we still closed lower than we opened. But nonetheless, the point is the fact that Tesla has been showing weakness the past, week or so. Which is, definitely something to keep in mind, because, this is a pretty important level of pivot level, if you will, this current area that we're trading in. I did say, remember how I thought that we'll trade in between 840 to, I said 870. We did go a little bit higher than I expected, but, it is what it is sometimes. And yeah, so we're essentially still trading within this range, right? Again, you can see a lot of trading here, a lot of, trading here. So this is a pretty high area of, I guess, contention between the bears and the bulls, if you will. And Tesla definitely showing some weakness today. So if we go over to the 15-minute, for instance, you can see here that Tesla, it tried so hard to get out of this channel, and I really thought it would. It really seemed like it would. It really was looking good until it obviously wasn't. So Tesla definitely showing weakness. Kind of staying within this channel. You can see as it, multiple times it kept trying, just keeps getting rejected. Came up here again, got rejected, and got slammed back down. However, I want to give you guys a perspective of the bulls and the bears. There's bearish stuff and there's some bullish stuff, right? The question is which one is going to be playing out. I'll give you guys everything you need to know so that as something happens, you'll know which scenario is most likely going to be playing out. Again, I still want to reiterate that I am net bearish on the market, which of course includes Tesla. I'm overall bearish on the whole market in general for the next pretty much fall. The majority of fall, I'm net bearish, fairly bearish as well, actually. But all that being said and done, that doesn't mean that, there isn't some potential green ahead still. So let's talk about that. First, let's go on the daily. Let's go over the usual stuff that we like to go over, right? So first and foremost, I actually want to talk about the RSI once again. You can see definitely showing a little bit of weakness, right? Thankfully, it didn't go lower than this, but it's pretty much dead smack where this low was over here. It's slightly, ever so slightly higher. While the stock is, of course, fair amount higher than what this low over here was, right? This low down here when it was around kind of the mid 840s, and here we're sitting at 860, and it's already pretty much at that point. So if this crossed even lower and made a lower low here, that would have been quite bearish, but it didn't. But it's on thin ice, so that's pretty bearish. Then moving on to, of course, the major things we care about here. They're still above the 21 EMA, which is bullish. Still haven't touched the white line, which in my opinion, I still think we're going to touch it. I still think that's my current target. I personally think we're going to touch it. But of course, we'll see what happens. But I'm expecting to get to that line at some point. Still well above the 50, but definitely well below the 200. So we're still in between that. Kind of this sideways action channel, if you will. However, on the not so bright side, we did close below the 5 and the 10-day moving average, which is of course a short-term kind of momentum indicator, if you will. And the fact that we're below both of them and closed below both of them at the moment is not a good sign. We'll see what the day brings tomorrow, but if we can't recapture at least one of them tomorrow, let's say, that's going to make me feel even more bearish, right? However, with that being said and done, so those things right there that I just talked about, the RSI is still looking bearish, and of course the fact that we couldn't break out of this channel twice, essentially we tried and we couldn't do it, overall is bearish, right? The daily RSI in my opinion is looking a little bit bearish as well, but this takes longer to play out than it does on something like the 15-minute. However, moving on to the bullish stuff that has me have some glimmering hope for the short term, August, let's say. There's a couple things. Number one, the RSI on the 15-minute chart looks, neutral. Doesn't look necessarily bearish or bullish. I would actually argue it looks slightly more bullish than bearish on the short term over here, but that can change pretty quickly. So you got to be really careful with this on the shorter time frame. However, it does look, in my opinion, slightly more bullish than bearish, mainly because over here we have a bullish divergence. The stock made a lower low between these 2 points right here, but you can see the RSI made a higher low, which is a good sign. And then that kind of, instigated this rally. And then as we came down to almost the same level, we're still setting ultimately higher lows, potentially, depending on how we go tomorrow. So that's not bad. That's obviously more bullish than it is bearish. However, with that being said, there's also two potential bullish patterns forming. The first bullish pattern that's potentially forming, I wouldn't put too much weight in it, but it's something to consider, is an inverted head and shoulders. What does that mean? Well, that means that as we're kind of doing this little downtrend over here in this channel, we actually have a left shoulder, we have the head, and of course we're setting up now what could be the right shoulder. The way you'd want to see this play out and the way you don't want this to, like, you know, I guess pretty much for this to fail, for this pattern to fail. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if this one fails. This one, I wouldn't put too much weight into it, mainly because it is happening in an uptrend. Technically, we are still technically in this like short-term uptrend. So I put less weight into that. This is more weight, in my opinion, in an overall downtrend that we are currently not in on this shorter time frame. But nonetheless, you know, the way this pattern would fail is if we essentially break this low. This low right here of like 857, 856, pretty much anywhere between 855 to 860. If that snaps, you know what, to make it simple, 855. If 855 snaps, in my opinion, this pattern is completely nullified and it essentially doesn't exist anymore. So you really, really want like around 855 to hold, and you want really strong support there. If it happens, then I think this pattern can actually have a beautiful play out of an inverted head and shoulders. But again, I'm a little bit so-so about this one. But with that being said, the pattern I am not so-so about, the pattern that is actually a fairly bullish pattern that we are setting up, you know, in a fairly textbook fashion, is going to be the cup and the handle. So in case you don't know what a cup and handle looks like, I'll just Google it so you guys can get a better idea. But this is a decent example. Screenshot's like microscopic, unfortunately, but right here, I guess you can say this is a cup and handle. This right here, right? It's a cup into a handle, right? It's a bullish pattern. It signals a reversal. In this case, it's a bullish cup and handle. The opposite is, of course, if you do like this, and then you go like that, right? So a bearish cup and handle would be, instead of this, it would be like this. That's a bearish cup and handle. Clearly, we're doing the opposite of that, which is a bullish one, right? So we have the cup right here forming. We essentially came up to these highs over here. That's usually pretty normal. And then what you do is you reject. You essentially create the handle, or like a bull flag slash handle, which is what which is happening here. Unfortunately, we got rejected, but ideally what we want to see is not only a breakout of this little handle or bull flag, if you will, that we are forming, but you also want to see a breakout of essentially the high that we had over here, like 940. The second this breaks out, that's check mark number 1. And the second 940 breaks, that's check mark number 2. And there's a decent chance that this pattern will play out, which is, of course, a net bullish pattern. Now, that's a very bullish pattern. It's one of my personal favorite patterns. I also love the head and shoulder pattern, but again, on that shorter time frame, especially in an uptrend, short-term uptrend, I put a little bit less weight on it personally, but this one right here, I like it. This is a nice looking pattern. I'm very bullish on this one, and I really want to see this play out. So we'll see what happens with this one. Again, the fact that we got rejected here is not so good. We have already 5 touch points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This was the 5th touch point today. So because we got rejected, in my opinion, because the RSI in the 4 hour, or the 2 hour in this case, I mean, honestly, the 2 hour, the 3 hour, the 4 hour all look pretty similar. They all look actually quite bearish in my opinion, because the RSI is starting to make lower lows, which isn't good, even though the stock is still all the way up here, which I personally don't like. That is a little bit bearish in my opinion. Tells me the fact that, you know what, there's a decent chance that what we might actually do is do a 7 touch point on this. So we'll see what happens with that. But essentially what I wouldn't be surprised to see now is more short-term pain, because I also think the SPY and the QQQ actually most likely want to retreat here. So that's something to consider. We'll talk about that very, very soon. You can see the SPY got smacked back down, also had a false breakout over here. But pretty much what I wouldn't be surprised is if we do a 7 touch point. So in other words, it'll be a 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the 5th right here that we just failed and got rejected on today. And potentially come down for a 5th touch point somewhere at the bottom of this channel, either all the way down here or somewhere halfway, which will pretty much put us right around maybe 820, 830. So either 820 to 830 is the first level I would look at in terms of getting a potential bounce and then a potential play out of the pattern. And the second level, depending on how long it takes, will pretty much be closer to 800. Very, very, very high 700s also would be somewhere I would personally be looking at. And if that can hold and bounce properly, and then we can break out of this channel, that's bullish. So that's kind of the bullish pattern that I am currently looking at, and I'm going to be waiting to see how it plays out. But again, with that being said and done, the RSI on the 2 hour, the 3 hour, the 4 hour, even the daily, in general, the RSI on like anything above like the 30-minute really looks pretty bearish. It looks not very good. Let's just say that, not ideal. So, we'll see what that happens with that, and how it plays out, how it wants to move. Keep in mind, today was also a very low volume day on a red day though, which isn't too bad. I would say that's better than worse. Overall, it's more bullish than bearish if you had to pick. So there's a lot of things that are kind of conflicting, right? It's a very, very difficult situation that we are currently in my opinion. Again, taking a look at the SPY, which of course influences Tesla, you can see false breakout, 2 false breakouts in a row. You can see we kind of bounced a bit over here, and then we got just slammed back down, and we ended up back in the channel. So guys, we're in quite a wild market. So this is why I always say don't be too risky, because this market is clearly quite good at trapping bears and bulls alike. It doesn't matter which side you're on, you're probably gonna get trapped if you're, you know, if you're being too risky or too greedy. So that's kind of what I'm seeing at the very moment, guys. Let me know what you think about it, of course, down below in the comment section. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. The VIX is just getting absolutely steamrolled. At some point, it is going to get a strong bounce. It's just a matter of when, not if, right? So we'll see what happens with that. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow is a Friday. Again, I'm usually net bearish on Fridays, so we'll see what happens. But that's kind of what I'm seeing at the very moment. Again, ultimately, I am more bearish than bullish. However, the bulls do have this one pattern, in my opinion, to hold on to being kind of like a, you know, the last light at the end of the tunnel to get a potential run up somewhere back into the thousands. But that's pretty much what I'm seeing. So let me know what you guys think about it down below, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.